Welcome to Regulatory Ramblings. Our podcast today is brought to you by the University of Hong Kong's RegTech Lab, the HKU SCF FinTech Academy, the Asia Global Institute, and the HKU edX Professional Certificate in FinTech, with support from the university's Faculty of Law. I'm your host, Ajay Shamdasani. Today's topic is financial inclusion through the power of technology. Our guest is Eelee Lua, Chief of Staff at xCube in Singapore. Eelee is a seasoned business leader in the technology space, specializing in risk mitigation and strategic partnerships. Having entered the risk and compliance field 13 years ago, she holds a board director accreditation from the Singapore Institute of Directors and actively contributes to industry communities such as the Singapore FinTech Association and Women in Alliances. xCube is best described as a Singapore-based corporate venture studio. Recently, Eelee penned an article entitled Circular Financial Identity, the Missing Piece for Financial Inclusion. She writes, financial inclusion remains a critical global issue, with approximately 1.4 billion people still lacking access to formal financial services. Traditional financial systems often exclude marginalized populations, such as low-income individuals, women, rural communities, and refugees. This exclusion not only limits economic opportunities, but also perpetuates poverty. A promising solution to bridge this gap is circular financial identity, or CFI, which has the potential to transform financial inclusion efforts worldwide. She then goes on to state the 5 components of CFI. A link to this article will be posted on our website. First, multi-source data integration. Second, decentralized identity verification. Third, interoperability. Fourth, advanced technologies. And fifth, user control. She concludes by saying, circular financial identity represents a transformative approach to enhancing financial inclusion. By leveraging digital technologies, CFI can provide underserved populations, including refugees, with access to essential financial services, reduce costs, and empower marginalized groups. While challenges remain, the potential benefits of CFI make it a critical piece in achieving universal financial inclusion, end quote. And with that, Eelee, thank you for joining us.
Hi, AJ. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a topical and timely issue, and I'm glad we're having the discussion now. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? How did you end up on the professional path you're on now? I mean, you've been working now for a good number of years. I mean, your career spans, 16, 17 years, maybe longer, but you've been in risk and compliance for 13 years. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up and how you ended up in this space.
Sure, yeah. I'm Chinese Malaysian. I grew up in a very small town in the state of Johor in Malaysia, educated there, and I moved to Singapore about 17 years ago, and I lived all my adult life in Singapore. I also completed my university education here. So as one of the business hubs in Asia, Singapore offers a lot of opportunities, I guess, in terms of career growth and advancement. And I built my professional network in Singapore and also got a lot of opportunities to really open my mind and open my eyes through some of the international projects that I worked on throughout my career. And I guess like most of the risk and compliance professional, we didn't really just wake up one day and suddenly realize or think that, I think I want to be a risk and compliance professional. I actually entered into this space, I would say, by coincidence. So I was looking for a job, and when I was screening through the job opportunities online, I saw this opportunity in a background screening company. So they say they do, risk management and automate some of the compliance processes for their clients. And I really had no idea what that means. So I went to did my research, and I thought, oh, it's quite interesting. So I applied for the job, and I didn't get it. I accepted the outcome, but when I received the email confirmation to inform me that I was not selected for the role, I got even more curious about what they actually do. So I actually wrote back to the company and asked them why was I not selected, and can they give me any feedback?
That's very brave. That's very brave.
So it's interesting, and I guess then the opportunity really sparked that curiosity in me.
Because some companies that can get you blacklisted, but I don't know. Depending on the person, though, they'll be like, okay, this person isn't just interested in the job; they're actually interested in the career. Sometimes that can work to your benefit. You never know.
Yeah, so I guess probably it was meant to be, because I think because of this, and coincidentally, the person who they offered the role to, she didn't take the offer. So I guess the universe probably really wanted me to be in this space as well. So obviously, because the person who rejected the offer and didn't turn up, and the first person they could think of was me. So I remember my boss at the time. So she reached out to me. She said, if you don't mind, we would like to offer you this job. And because of I really appreciated the transparency, because they told me, oh, actually we offered to another person, and the person didn't accept the offer, and now we want to extend the offer to you. Would you like to come? So I'm like, okay, I like this approach, because I think first of all, not every company actually takes the effort to inform people and actually reply with constructive feedback. So I really appreciate that.
Sounds like you were very humble and graceful.
So my personal philosophy, I always believed we should make more friends than enemies. So there's no harm to make friends and stay in contact. And I really appreciate how they handle these particular incidents, and how transparent they are as an employer. So yeah, long story short, this is how I actually landed the first job in risk and compliance space. And it was a background screening company. So they primarily focused on background screening for pre-employment and post-employment purposes, but they also did some forensic and investigation work for their clients, and their clients are mainly in the financial services space. So throughout my career, I'm used to working with a lot of professionals in the risk and compliance domain, particularly in the financial services industry. I also work with professionals outside the financial services industry, but I would say the majority of my professional network are still very much within this spape.
It's interesting that you say that, because I honestly, Singapore and Hong Kong, two places that you're going to run into the same people again.
Yeah.
Time and time again. History, as they say, rhymes. It may not repeat itself, but it rhymes. Certain places are just too small to burn your bridges. Yep. But okay, so coming to where you are now, that's xCube. xCube, as I mentioned, the opening is best described as a corporate venture studio. Well, what does that mean? What exactly does xCube do?
xCube is a corporate venture studio, which means we build ventures with corporates. So we act as a trusted partner to support corporates to innovate beyond their core business. So, for example, if let's say a business in the hospitality industry, or let's say in airline or even financial services, and they acknowledge that they need to diversify their business and their income stream, hence, and also, of course, stay on top of the competition. And one of the ways of doing it is really to create an environment to foster innovation. And they want to innovate beyond their core capability. And from there, they want to seek opportunity to grow their business in a different way. So unlike the other venture studios in the market, xCube builds ventures via an ecosystem approach. So that means instead of letting partnerships, synergies happen organically. Typically, it happens organically in businesses between different stakeholders, which takes a much longer time. So the idea of having xCube building ventures via an ecosystem approach is actually to reverse engineer by intentionally build the ecosystem right from the beginning. And we orchestrate the synergies and accelerate the growth and development for everybody within the ecosystem. So Defy, DEFY, is one of the ecosystems that we've recently launched. So it's about a Web3 financial infrastructures that power impact banking and financial inclusion in the Southeast Asia and Middle East region. Yeah, so it is, I will explain a little bit more about Defy now that we know what xCube does. So Defy is an impact banking ecosystem. It's designed to create hyper-personalized financial solutions for the underserved population. So when we kick off this chat, AJ, you really spot on. I mentioned about the underserved population in the article that I wrote in IDC, the Next Big Things publication. So when we say the underserved, of course, the unbanked population they are included, but we are not just talking about the unbanked population. So in G20 financial inclusion indicators, financial inclusion is actually measured in several dimensions, 3 dimensions. The access to financial services is just one of the 3 dimensions. The second one is actually usage of financial services. And third one is the quality of the products and the service delivery. So which means, in other words, if someone has a bank account but do not have access or quality access of financial services, or they cannot actually use the bank account for anything in their day-to-day life, they are still considered as underserved population. So examples that I provided in the article included people who do not even have official identity. But I also do want to mention in the modern days, underserved population also include people like expats, digital nomads. When they travel and they live in a country that is outside their home country, I'm talking about myself, by the way, they do have challenges from time to time in getting financial services. Yeah, I have a bank account in a foreign country. That doesn't mean I can get a credit card, or I can get a loan, or I can get open another different types of accounts in the foreign country, because current traditional financial institutions might require me to provide some of the documentation that I am not able to provide. But it is not because I'm illegal or whatsoever. It's one simple example can be, now there are huge population in Asia where people live in places like Phuket, Bali, as an alternative lifestyle, I would say. So they work and they live there, and these people are high income people, but they just don't have a permanent address. So because of this, they don't have access to most of the traditional financial services. DeFi is, in a nutshell, was created to solve these issues and to increase the financial inclusion to the solution that we are creating within the DeFi ecosystem.
It's interesting because the whole digital nomad thing ties into the fairness of globalization itself. And I don't want to sound like a bleeding heart, but one's ability to be a digital nomad and just set up shop anywhere in the world and be a citizen of the world really comes down to the passport they hold.
Yes.
It's my producer Frost and I have discussed in the past that the rules of globalization, just seemingly going across borders and finding your economic destiny, really are geared heavily towards those that hold OECD nation passports. I don't want to belabor that point though, but something about financial inclusion is that we've been hearing about it since the last global financial crisis, 08, 09, the Financial Stability Board in Switzerland, just tied to the G20, and then the IMF. They've all been saying financial inclusion is important. That we hear about it ad nauseum. We go to conferences, we hear people say that banks have gotten fat, lazy, and complacent, that people need banking services. They don't necessarily need banks. And in certain parts of the world, telecommunications providers have been essentially become the de facto banking system in places like the Philippines and parts of Africa, and even in India. But I mean, if you were to explain it to me, if I were a 5-year-old, if I were just someone with barely a high school education, why does financial inclusion matter, and how can technology facilitate it? Because look, we're doing pretty well in a place like Hong Kong, a place like Singapore, most developed countries. Most people are like, okay, I've got a job, I've got a bank account, I can use it whenever I want. And okay, there are people without bank accounts, but every society is going to have its winners and losers. Why does financial inclusion matter, and what can technology be done to assist it?
So I just want to build on the point that you mentioned, AJ. Just now you mentioned about holding certain passport. So I actually still hold a Malaysian passport, and I'm privileged enough to live in Singapore, in a developed country, for many years. But reflecting on where I grew up and the struggles that my parents had as second generation immigrants from China. So my grandparents, they had no choice but to move to Malaysia during the Second World War. So all these I think financial inclusion, when we live in the big cities like Singapore, Hong Kong, we sometimes feel like it's not very close to us, isn't it? We only read these things from the news, from paper, and it's. I understand it's hard to relate to some people, but for me personally, because I grew up in developing countries, as a minority, Chinese in Malaysia, we are a minority. We have less than 20% of population who are Chinese immigrants. So I personally felt it, right? When you don't have access to financial services and equal rights to the same type of education, for example, it impacts not just yourself, but also your next generations. So as an individual, as a human, I think it's normal that everyone wants to live a better life. And if we have the ability to help others to achieve their goal, it's just a human thing to do. So yeah, why not? And at a macro level, I would say financial inclusion promotes economic growth, really. Increased financial inclusion leads to higher level of savings for everybody. People can start to do investment and foster entrepreneurship because there are more economic activities around, so there are more business opportunity. People can create new solutions and help the markets to address different market needs. Fostering economic growth and stability also mitigate some problems in the community and in the local society. And if the national economy is doing well, then everybody does well. So I do think, even though sometimes we don't feel the financial inclusion is super close, it's a problem that is very close to our day-to-day, but it does impact us, every one of us, in many ways. Yeah. So when it comes to how technology can facilitate it, I think we live in a very interesting time. So Web3 technologies, especially Web3 technologies and newer technologies like artificial intelligence, AI. I just wanted to make a point. AI is not new at all. It's just the application of AI is new. So new technologies or new application of technologies like Web3 technologies, AI, they will be able to significantly enhance financial inclusion because of the nature of the technology. They can actually enable more innovation solutions that make financial services more accessible and more efficient, as a result, cheaper and tailored to individual needs. I can provide a few examples. So for example, like cross-border transactions, because since we are talking about people, the globalization and people living in different places, cross-border transactions, because of decentralized finance and the nature of blockchain, we will be able to, and we have seen some solutions in the market where cross-border transactions become faster, cheaper, and not just people like us. We consider ourselves as the more privileged group, digital executive or digital nomad, but also for people like migrant workers. So they also live abroad and they work very hard and they have to send money back to their families in their origin countries. So solutions like these help everybody, really. It helps us when we travel. It helps migrant workers when they have to send money home every single month. Yeah, another example is like the tokenizations of assets. So it allows fractional ownership and it makes investments more accessible. As a result, more people can use their money to make more money and they can help their family to live a better life. And example of AI can also cover things like if we apply in the financial services industry, it can be something like credit scoring or credit risk profile assessing method. So because of AI and the speed of technology can actually process huge amount of data and alternative data sets within a very short amount of time. All these alternative data sources can be used to assess someone's creditworthiness, and from there, then the financial institutions can actually offer they have the data and they have the confidence to offer financial services to more people, because now they have the ability to have all this data to help them with the credit assessment. And everybody is happy to do that, because financial services, they are heavily regulated. The reason why they don't want to offer like loans or other similar type of financial services to more people is because they have to stay regulated. They need to manage their risk. They can only do things that they deem as safe to do, meaning they need to have data and information to support their decisions. So with technologies like AI and Web3, which is very decentralized nature, they can actually collect and process data in many different ways to, as a result, help financial services offer many different types of existing and new financial services to more people. Yeah, and as a red tech nerd, I would say, of course, I would also like to mention the benefits that technology creates when it comes to security and fraud detection. I think the combination of AI and Web3 technologies could actually significantly improve the security of financial transactions, or even during the KYC stage. So because of the how advanced the technology is, we can do a lot of things in real time or almost real time if we utilize them appropriately, I could say. And also blockchain, especially blockchain technology, provides the nature of transparent and immutable nature actually help to reduce the risk of financial crime if we use the technology in the right place. Yeah, so I can go on with many other examples, but I think these few examples are sufficient for now to help people relate to this topic in terms of how technology can help with financial inclusion and how are they interconnected.
Well, your passion for the subject matter and the cause certainly comes through. So that's important, because there is this isn't just about law and policy and financial flows, that there's in technology there's a human side to it, that people on the ground feel the practical effects. And I mean, it occurs to me that if you cut people out of the legitimate banking system, and having been on the regulatory compliance beat for a number of years at Thomson Reuters, and I was often coming at it from a financial crime perspective, AML, KYC, and the like, that if you force people out of the legitimate banking system, well, water finds its own level, right? Well, financial flows follow the path of least resistance. That is to say, if you cut them out of the legitimate banking system, they will find alternatives in either the gray or the shadow or the illicit financial system, which you may not want, but you may force them to do that. And when you have financial institutions wholesale getting rid of clients in particular fields, particular sectors, like, I'm not going to represent anyone in the jewelry business because I'm concerned about blood diamonds and terrorist financing and the like. It's too high risk. Then, and even though the regulators, the international bodies, the FSB, the IMF, the FATF in Paris tell them you've got to do risk-based compliance, risk-weighted compliance, they don't listen. They take the path of least resistance. So there is that to consider. So if coming back to your article though, if you were to distill it down to central points that you wanted to convey to people in terms of the takeaway, what's essential for them to know about your article? What were you trying to get across? What were you trying to convey? What are the key themes that people should reflect on?
I know most people have heard about the term of financial inclusion. Most people briefly understand or have deep understanding about this topic, but that doesn't mean we don't need to continue to bring awareness to the public. So this is my first point. I think it's very important to keep talking about important topics until people, and some people, they say, I keep seeing this, I cannot resist anymore. I have to dive into it and do some research into it. So this is personally my first goal. And second point I want to bring across is that, so just now we discussed about, okay, if financial institutions, they want to offer the financial services to people, but because of the regulatory requirements, or maybe we want to say restriction, they think they don't want to do that. They are unable to do that because they want to de-risk, but they are actually not doing de-risking, and in fact they are creating more problems in the society. One more example I can quote is, so many people from Pakistan, they work in the foreign countries because there are not enough opportunity within the country. They have to go to Europe or other countries to work and make a better living, and they have to send money back to the countries because of this international system, and Pakistan is one of the countries that is deemed as high risk. The entire population of Pakistan, they are all affected. Yeah, so these people, they are legitimate, they are hardworking, they just want to survive and make a living and send money back to the few people at home, but they can't do it in the official the traditional financial system. So what they do is they just have to go with alternative way, and that creates so many problems. So many scams and frauds happen because people are desperate. They need financial services, but they cannot get. So the point I wanted to get across is that so on one hand, people who need financial services, they cannot get that, and on the other hand, maybe not all, but I believe many financial institutions, they do really want to offer the financial services to these people, but because there's these regulators and regulatory regime sits between them to tell them, okay, these are all the boxes you have to check, otherwise you cannot do this. So this is like a pull and push struggles between all these parties, and circular financial identity is actually aiming to put everybody on the same page and try to remove I cannot say we can completely remove, but we really try to mitigate the misalignment of everybody's goals. So how do we do it? Circular financial identity is about a concept where we want to utilize technology to help individuals and down the road also small businesses and solopreneurs to create their financial profile and enable them to accumulate and collect and accumulate their data over time as they move. So it will be a borderless kind of, you can understand it as like an individual's financial profile. And from there, through the activities that they do, meaning they receive payment, they make transaction, they donate money, they travel, they spend. So from there, we can generate more information like credit information, generate a credit risk profile, so that we can close the gap between the financial institutions that want to offer the financial services, but they cannot. Now they can offer such services. So from the regulator's perspective, what they care is, of course, they want to protect the consumers. They want to protect the public. And that is why, I mean, with good intention, they set all those rules. I think the intention is good. They set those rules so that they think in theory they can protect more people, but as a result, we all know it's not always the case. So to give regulators the comfort that now, okay, there is a new way of collecting data and sharing data without revealing the sensitive information through technology, I think they are happy to do that. Yeah, because this is kind of striking the balance between data privacy and transparency, so people can have a better way of protecting their data, but also choose to release their data to people that they want to release the data to without actually revealing it. So for example, I don't know if you heard about zero knowledge proof technology. So zero knowledge proof is a cryptographic technology that exists for quite a few years already, but the application of it's not very well known because I think it's similar to many Web3 technologies. The people in the Web3 world, in my view, they don't consider very well on the interoperability, how they utilize advanced technology in the current world, and how can they help people integrate and move towards using advanced technology. Because the fact is, people don't change overnight. The more advanced the technology is, the more difficult for people to accept. It's a fact. People are resistant to change. But if you can help them integrate with what they do at the moment and lead them, and have a way to lead them to adopting the new technology, then there is a better way of doing it. Yeah, so back to the zero knowledge proof, the technology has existed in the market for some time, but there's not a lot of use cases at the moment. So what we are building in Defy is actually utilize zero knowledge proof to enable people sharing their personal data without revealing the personal data. So for example, if I'm a financial service provider, I need to know whether you are sending your money to someone who is in a sanctioned country. That's all I need to know. Or I need to know, or I cannot onboard this customer because of certain age. Yeah, maybe under 18 or whatever age. I cannot onboard because of the legal obligation. But I do not actually need to know what is your citizenship and what is your exact age to make this decision.
What you're saying is quite salient, and as to point a person's, their nations of origin, your example earlier with people from Pakistan. Look, there are good people in bad countries, there are bad people in good countries, but unfortunately, certain countries, because of the risks that have been associated with them over time, well, as you well know, with most banks, the financial sector writ large, it's risk-weighted compliance, it's risk-based compliance, and everyone, based on the totality of the circumstances, as we say in criminal procedure, the totality of the factors gets a certain risk weighting, and sadly, that young man from Pakistan may have done no wrong, may just want to send money home to his family, but by virtue of the national of whose country he is, he falls into a higher risk category.
Yeah,
and there's going to be more scrutiny, and sadly, going through the conventional banking system, more scrutiny, more compliance, more costs, a higher transaction cost then for him to send that money back home. Again, bringing this back down to what I was saying earlier, that there is a practical cost to this, that people at street level feel sometimes pernicious pain that they have to pay, that not everything they send reaches their families, friends, and loved ones, because it is eaten up by transaction costs, and compliance is a big part of that.
Yeah, yes, you're correct. So issues like this, I think it's very practical and day-to-day kind of problems that we as innovators should use technology to solve. Like I don't know, maybe I'm a very practical person. Yeah. So I don't actually need to know, when I use an app or something, I don't actually need to know what is the technology behind it. I don't care. As a user, I only care if the technology can solve my problems.
That's what I said to the upstairs tenant in a flat I was renting once.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know how the plumbing works, but your water pump is leaking water into my kitchen. I'm just interested in the solution.
Yeah.
I don't need to know the details.
Yeah.
Let the experts discuss. Let your seafood talk to my seafood, and they'll work it out between themselves. And hopefully there'll be a solution. We don't have to get lawyers involved. That's it, right? At the end of the day, we as users just want a resolution and to be able to go about our lives.
Yeah, and I think it's good that many developers or high tech advocates they advocate for the technology that they believe that's great. It's going to solve the problems for the future. But as a ordinary person on the street, I just want to know, how can I send money with very low fee? That's all. Yeah, I don't need to know how many types of different technology you apply.
Right. I don't need to know it's peer-to-peer. I don't need to know it's got NSA level encryption. I don't need to know about the blockchain. I just need to know. And by the way, crypto is not always the cheapest way to do it, though I think in most instances you do save money. But even still, a lot of people haven't fully bought into crypto, and I don't know, maybe that's a generational divide. But coming back to your intentions for writing the article, I think we can agree that there's been a lot written about financial inclusion, a great deal of reporting on this issue, again, mainly because the FSB and the IMF at the macro level, but national governments and domestic regulators are paying attention to it too. Against the saturated field for literature of this topic, what compelled you to write the article? What did you feel was unique or different, or a first impression of your article that you were saying technology can help? Others have said that, but clearly they haven't laid it out as you have. But why did you want to dive into an already well-tread field?
I also have been contributing my energy and time for my pro bono work in the Singapore FinTech Association. So I do spend some time there to promote different kinds of initiatives. So people know me from that world as well. So someone reached out to me via the Singapore FinTech Association because they wanted to look for, I guess, thought-provoking content that is more appealing for their audience. So I was introduced by them, and they asked me, based on your domain of expertise, can you write an article for us? And it's up to you, what do you want to write about? I sat down and thought about it, and I think based on my personal experiences, and I love to travel. Yeah, so I've seen many people struggle financial inclusion related topic from different parts of the world for different reasons. I also had experience in volunteering in Cambodia, in the slums area. So those people, they don't have any ID. Yeah, so that's like a different set of problem as compared to an expat making good money, just having problem access to certain types of financial services. But at least they have a good passport, they have ID. So from one spectrum into another, when I really reflect and also think about what we are doing at Defy now, I think KYC tool that is built on the circular financial identity concept can really make a systemic change in financial inclusion. It's a systemic way of tackling these problems, and I just want people to know this. Yeah. And because this CFI concept can be applied in so many different use cases. It can be applied in helping governments to have to start creating financial identity for undocumented people or refugees to solve many other society problems. It can also help financial institutions to offer more services to more people. So I think there are so many different use cases, and we as a business, we just cannot solve every problem in the world. So why not sharing these concepts, and which I really believe is a good concept that can help make systemic change to the world, and maybe someone would pick up from there and build a solution in Africa, in other parts of the world, and more people get to live a better life. Yeah, so that was really what my motive was.
I think what resonates with a lot of people, based on what you said about financial inclusion through technology, what you're saying about it putting everyone on the same page, on relatively equal footing, the egalitarian nature, the fairness of it, that one shouldn't be prohibited from transacting purely based on their national origin, where they are, that some might even say that in the modern world, banking services are akin to a human right. So, there is something to be said for that. I'm struck by how things have changed, that over the last 10, 12, 15 years, I think you would agree that things like fintech, regtech, uptech have become more important. And that the compliance officer now has to contend with things like crypto, blockchain, distributed ledger technology, decentralized organizations, DAOs, all Web3, all that all these technological concepts and nomenclature, and I mean, at the very least, they're having to read up on it. They're having to become more tech savvy. And I guess what I'm wondering is, as you reflect on your own history, as when you started off in compliance, and how you had to become more tech savvy, what was it like? What was your learning curve like? At what point was your epiphany that you said, okay, the compliance officer of the future is going to need to know a lot more things. I need to look into this. I need to vote up on Web3 and the technologies that are going to enhance and be the way financial services is done in future. When was that moment of awareness awakening for you, and how steep of a learning curve was it for you?
Yeah, I'm not taking by training. I cannot code, and personally, I also don't use social media a lot. When I just go into the tech space, especially red tech space, it was about 2018. Yeah, so it was around 2018. I moved from more service oriented to tech oriented kind of business. I remember it was a bit intimidating because I thought I really have to know everything. And so I started to, push myself to attend courses, to learn things. And after some time, I realized it's just impossible to keep up with all these new technologies. And I was curious, so I went and asked the techie people, like those have been in technologies, coding, developing, and later on become a head of engineering or CTO later on in their career. They've been doing this for their entire career. So I was curious, right? I go and ask them, sometimes when I come across like a new technology or new term, and they actually say, we don't know everything as well. Like we it's really hard to keep up, and you don't have to know everything in order to do best in your job.
For sure. My former editor at a legal magazine, they'll talk a good game at conferences with great conviction, with great confidence. And then behind, when you're having a few drinks afterwards, they'll say, in moments of utmost honesty, I don't fully understand everything I write about. Even though you're being interviewed by Bloomberg as a so-called expert on this. I mean, and the shocking thing is, you'd be surprised how many people who are working at some of the world's foremost consulting firms, and they shall remain nameless, we know who they are, have said more or less the same to me. I don't necessarily know all that I'm selling, but sadly, many of them, because they're buzzword compliant, or they know how to repackage the knowledge of others, experiences of others, they speak well, they present well. There's a great deal of charlatanism in this space. We did an episode a little while back about the consequences of non-technically trained lawyers advising on technology matters. And there's a lot of charlatanism in this space. But by the same token, you're right. Someone who doesn't have a technical background, if they put in the time, the effort, the learning, they can become a power user at the very least. They can become knowledgeable enough about the functionality and the policy implications to actually add value.
I mean, looking back my journey, I was, pushing myself so hard to pick up the knowledge in this tech area, and after that, I realized it's nice to have, but it's not necessary. So I would encourage the risk and compliance, the people in the risk and compliance space, to take a step back and think about what your real values are. Like, go back to the fundamentals. What are you trying to achieve, right? What is your before and after with your expertise and without your expertise? What are your values? And if you know your values, you know you can solve problems, you know what are the problems that you want to solve, then you start to think of, okay, what data do I need and what I'm trying to achieve. And you get the technology experts to come in and give you the suggestions on which type of technology you can apply to achieve your goal. And just test it. I think test the technology is the best way to go about it, because really nobody knows. Even the builders, the people who build the technology, they only know about the tech. They don't know. I mean, of course, they need to analyze and understand your problem, but you know your problems best. So I think because of social media and also this fast-paced nature of technology, many people in the risk and compliance space, they feel quite intimidating. Hence, there's even more resistance for them to want to get to know this. So I quote one example. So regulators or probably people in the private sectors in the risk and compliance space, the moment they hear about generative AI, oh, it's dangerous, it's out of control, I cannot do this to my business.
Right, that people's thinking is heavily influenced by themes and memes and tropes.
Yeah.
And these take on a narrative and a life of their own, and can scare people from embracing new technology.
I guess from my own learnings, and also I cannot say I advise, but I would encourage people to not let the fear impact their decision making process. Yeah, you know what you are good at, and people don't hire you for building the technology. They hire you to solve the problems. Yeah, so you just know your values, how you can solve the problem, and you collaborate with other people to solve the problem together. No one can solve all the problems in the world.
Speaking of the people that build the technology, earlier you pointed out that in the world of Web3,
Hello.
the people that we might call the techies, for lack of a better term, the coders, the software engineers, they don't consider interoperability, as you pointed out, in terms of how people use technology in the current world, and they're not as concerned about how to integrate different systems. Why is that? Why are they so myopic? Or is it that they're just fixated on their piece of the puzzle and they can't think of their system playing with others?
But I think big part of it is because of the frustration. So it's natural for people to think that, I think this doesn't work. I want to create, because they are builders, you see. So their mindset is, okay, this doesn't work. This current banking system really doesn't serve me. I don't care. I want to build one for myself and for people like me. Then we can use it in our Web3 world. We don't care about the current. But the fact is, you still have to live your life. You still have to get mortgages. Your family still have to go to school, go through the normal day-to-day, and those systems are still in Web 2. So you cannot really live a separate life with that. So from there, there's even more frustration, and people don't talk about it. Yeah, so I think it's a shame that some Web3 builders, they isolate themselves just within, they just talk within their community, and then they don't share the struggles with the traditional world. And I really think this is very important. Maybe I don't have that techie mindset, so I'm just normal people. So I do really want to adopt the new technology, but please show me the way on how I can progress from now to the new world, and not jump from one end to the other and suddenly without knowing what I'm getting into.
I agree. And coming back to the point about these builders, from those that I've spoken to, and some of them are quite visionary in terms of how they believe their fintech solution can really revolutionize the world. Some of the stuff I've heard, I'll be honest, I'm not that tech savvy, but the way some of them have pitched it to me, it sounds pretty revolutionary. It sounds pretty earth-shattering. The critique, the complaint they have is, we pitch to the big banks, and the big banks have multiple layers of review and multiple vice presidents and executives and MDs, and they're slow. The legacy institutions are slow to act, whereas these guys are entrepreneurs. They want to execute like yesterday.
Yes.
So there's that disconnect, but I think, to be fair, some banks are ahead than others. I think HSBC has done a terrific job in terms of its utilization of AI, particularly when it comes to AML, KYC, and CTF. That they're doing a really good job. You mentioned Web 2, you mentioned Web 3. If we were to explain this to the layperson, how would you describe the transition from Web 2 to Web 3, and why will Web 3 matter in the future?
So back in 2021, which is about 3 years ago, that was the very first time the Singapore FinTech Festival. So for people who don't live in Singapore FinTech Festival is one of the largest FinTech festival in the world. It's co-hosted by MAS and several other parties, but the main host is the Monetary Authority of Singapore, to promote fintech since I think 7 or 8 years ago. So in 2021, it was the first time in history Web3 became the theme of Singapore FinTech Festival. So every year when they launch the FinTech Festival, and they attract like thousands of people. Last year, the visitors to Singapore FinTech Festival was 66,000, if I remember correctly. So in 2021, when I saw the theme, Web3 and its impact on financial services, I got really curious. So, and I was wondering, how are they going to explain this new concept of internet to people? And because at that point of time, 3 years ago, majority of the people, they don't even know Web3. Yeah, and you don't even have to talk about Web3 and the impact to financial services. So I want to quote this explanation. I think it's something simple to me. That's why I still remember. So they say in Web 1 is write only. So only people provide input of data. So in Web 2 is write and read, which is where we were living for the past, I would say, maybe 20 years or so. So you can input information, you can search for information, you can read them. So in Web 3 is write and read and own. So individuals, any one of us, because of the nature of Web3 technologies, we can have more visibility, and also because of the, for example, the immutable nature of blockchain, it allows people to own their data and choose how to share the data. Yeah, if you ask me the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is probably Web 2 write and read, and Web 3 is write and read and own. So this own is actually a huge element, and from here, a lot of technologies and application can come out from here, and it would change the way people act and live their day-to-day, because it basically changes people's habit and understanding about data.
That's a very simple but useful and easy to remember analogy to keep it straight. Yeah, thank you for that. Earlier you mentioned some of the initiatives that Defy by xCube was involved in, Web3 impact banking in Southeast Asia and the Middle East region. It strikes me that even if we just look at Southeast Asia, it's not just one monolithic block. The countries are very different levels of development, different, levels, economic, social, technological development, different regulatory and legal systems and structures. And then you add in the Middle East, and that's a whole other kettle of fish. And when people talk about, if you're talking about the Middle East, you'll see even in its totality, you'll see greater variance. But I suspect most people want to go to the comfortable, stable places that are doing well, where they can make money, which means they're mainly going to focus on the GCC, oil-rich countries of the GCC. But even there's different levels of development, different business cultures, different levels of technological uptake. Is it complicated then, juggling two very different regions?
I have to say yes, it's not simple.
Or is it the case that this technology is so good, so simplified, it'll work anywhere?
I don't think so, to be honest. Especially when it comes to RegTech. One of the characteristics of RegTech is that the technology that you build has to fulfill the regulatory requirements. It has to serve as an enabler for your clients to provide more like financial services to other people. So it's really important that when we build any RegTech solutions, we collaborate with the policymakers and regulators. So we help them understand what is this about, how can we help the public. And we test the technology in a safe environment like sandboxes.
So that is the cute popular colloquial term that we'll test it in the sandbox before deploying it to the society?
So this is our approach. Yes, you're right. Every country is different, so we have to work with many governments in the public sector to make this work, because this really we in order to execute this in the efficient and effective way, you need to get the buy-ins not just from the private sector but also the public sector.
Coming back to your list, the five the key components, the 5 key components for CFI. Factors 4 and 5, advanced technologies. CFI relies on technologies such as blockchain, AI, encryption to enhance data privacy and transparency. These technologies provide an immutable ledger, offering transparent audit trails and reliable data computation while preserving privacy. Factor 5, user control. CFI empowers individuals by giving them control over their identity data, allowing them to decide who can access their information for what purpose. This builds trust and empowers users within the financial system. All lofty goals, and yes, good technologies out there, the safeguards are there. Is that not overhyping it? Is that not overselling it? Are we relying too much on technology to do these things for us? Because we'll say, okay, we can do all of this for you, and then the person picks up the paper the next day and they hear about data privacy breaches and they lose faith in technology. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. If I put myself in those people's shoes, I mean, I'm a user as well. I'm a consumer as well, and I'm a business leader. So I wear many hats, and as an individual, I do have concerns. I think any advanced or sound advanced technologies is intimidating to everyone, and from the business perspective, the adoption is always the most difficult challenge, because like you mentioned, you can have the most robust technology, but if people don't want to use it, they are afraid or they don't know what is there, or because of one incident they lose faith in it, then you are not going to have the adoption. So I think there are a few things we have to do. So that's why creating awareness and educating the public is one of the important elements. And we also want to, and second is we want to try our best to do it in a secure and safer manner. But nobody, when it comes to risk, I think nobody can mitigate 100% of the risk. It's the fact. But you can do every way possible to mitigate as much risk as possible through all this methodology. Then I guess it's for the market to decide whether they want to adopt the technology or not. If the technology is just good, but it doesn't impact my day-to-day, I don't care. But if this technology is good, it helps me as I move, as I do business, as I live my adult life, and I have to do, whether I want it or not, I need to have banking and financial services, and this solves my pain point, then yes, I'm willing to take a little bit of risk and try it out if I can live a better life because of this. Yeah, so I think there's no one straightforward answer to your question, but it takes a lot of different factors and effort from different stakeholders to make this work.
I think it's a valid point to say that risk mitigation is not 100%, never will be, never has been. But it almost makes me think about when I first started covering AML and all the financial crime conferences I'd go to, and everyone would talk about zero tolerance. Whereas there's a difference between what people say in public and what they will acknowledge in private, because in private they will acknowledge to you, if we really did zero tolerance with all the AML, CTF, and sanctions rules, there'd be no business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's about presenting, try to mitigate the risk So I never say to people that we completely remove the risk. It's just impossible. We can mitigate the risk, and we present the facts to people and let them decide what risk they can take, because life is all about taking risks. Getting a job, the potential employer can tell you whatever they want to say, and it's up to you whether you want to take this risk. Moving countries, getting married, buying a house, there's risk involved in everything you do. And also, I don't think any technology solution can serve everybody in the world, and we don't have to. We just have to get some people's buy-in and slowly get more people's buy-in and impact as many lives as possible. And I think that's good enough. Yeah.
As you reflect on your career in risk and compliance, maybe say something about the greatest lessons and the most difficult challenges, or the deepest regrets. Any challenges you've encountered that you want to talk about? Any great lessons you learned that you still reflect on to this day?
I think I'll start with challenges. So, but I think this particular challenge is getting better over time. So I remember when I just started in this space, in the risk and compliance space, people often don't share information and they don't talk to each other. So compliance people just work in silo. Like compliance people only talk to compliance people. They don't talk to tech. They don't talk to business people, and they victimize themselves sometimes. They say, "Oh, our job is very, very difficult, and there's no way to improve it." But it's not true. But it's because you don't share, and people cannot read your mind. So yeah, I think that's one of the challenge, and probably same as the lesson learned as well. So once people started to share things good and bad, we see a lot of improvements. Yeah, so that is for me, my personal experience, and I believe also for many risk and compliance professionals. And it is getting better, and I hope it can be better down the road. And regrets, I don't think I have any regrets so far. I would say I'm very thankful that I entered into the industry by this accidental and funny story. And I always believe things happens for a reason, right? So yeah, there must be many, many reasons why I ended up here. So yeah, I'm happy where I am.
This is an exciting field you're a part of, and I feel grateful to, just even be on the sidelines and have conversations with people like you and learn more about it, even though I'm not in the thick of it. Any advice you would have for young graduates, HKU, law school, business school, in STEM fields or here or elsewhere that could see a career for themselves in your line of work? What chestnuts of wisdom you care to impart?
So I personally, I mentor a few younger people as well. So a couple of them are still in the university, and some of them just enter into the workforce, like first 2 to 3 years in the workforce. I think what I want to say is don't be too hard to yourself. I know a lot of younger generation nowadays, they are quite anxious about their future, and they want to do a great job right from day one. It's not like mistakes, and we learn from it, and we move on, and we improve, and we do better next time. And every jobs or every career path, try to find meaning and purpose in what you do. And because if you truly love what you do, I mean, this sounds cliche, but it's very, very true. I personally experienced that. If you love what you do, you don't feel like it's a job that you have to get yourself to show up and do it every day. You don't really feel the push factor. Yeah. So find a meaning, reflect, and learn if the job is the right job for you. And if yes, just dive deeper and enjoy the journey. Yeah. Just relax and enjoy the journey.
I think it's terrific that you offer mentoring to people, and I would say this to any students listening: find a mentor. One's not going to land in your lap. Go to industry events, meet people, get to know people, humble yourselves. Go there with an open heart and open mind, and good things will follow. Certainly, that's been my professional experience. In time we've got left, is there anything you feel we didn't cover? Anything you'd like to say before we close out?
No, I think all good, and I'm open to be connected with anyone, any of the audience. So if this is a topic that interests you, or any of the things that I say about my career or my personal life, or if you are seeking mentorship, I'm happy to get connected. LinkedIn would be great because I'm on LinkedIn a lot and I'm very responsive. Yeah, so feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Eelee Lua, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, AJ.
And to our listeners, thank you. Until next time.